On the Costings tab, the quantities printed are listed in the Quantities drop-down menu at the top right of the screen. And we can select any of the different quantities that we're quoting for to display the totals for each of the items. Note, you must however have the Auto Recalculate checkbox selected for the values to be automatically recalculated. And if we want to see another quantity and see how much it would cost, we simply type a value into the Change To field and then tab. For example, for 4,000 we do a tab and everything is recalculated as long as the Auto Recalculate button checkbox is selected. So once you've done your quote and you have the client on the phone, you can very quickly determine a different value if they change what quantity they want to have. Quite often the client says, oh yeah, well, how about you did 3,000 or 5,000? We just type it in there, hit the tab key, and you know immediately what that new price is going to be. In the print item costings, all the costings of each of the print items in the quote are listed with the values for different sections of the job. And to see the complete details of each item, you can double click on a particular item and you'll see a breakdown of all the costings in that item. And in the finishing item costings, all of the costings for each of the finishing items in the quote are listed with the values for different sections of the job. And to see the complete details of each item, you can also double click on the item, which opens the details dialog box so you can view the breakdown of the costings for that particular item. To add outside work, we click on the Details button, and when you click on this button, a window will open with a list of all the outside work items for this job. So if we want to create a new item, we just simply click on Create New Item, and there we can go to the Companies menu and select the company we're going to use for our outside work. Select that company and the details are loaded into the outside work item. If we again look at that select, we can delete items, we can search, we can sort, use, omit, all, create a company, modify a company, and select a company. And all those are similar to all the other output layout screens that we've seen so far. And once we've chosen the company, we can put a description in there. And we can give it a value for each quantity. Click OK, and that'll be listed. Here we can delete items, also make different selections of items, create additional items, and modify existing items. Once we've done this, click Done, and the value for that particular quantity will be loaded in for that quantity. If we change the quantity, we'll see the value changes to one of those 4 values we typed into the outside work layout. So if we go back, 34, 45, 55, 65, 45, 35, 34, 45, 55 and 65. Going back to the input layout, we can modify an item by first selecting it and clicking modify, or we can double click on the item. Here we can also modify a company, create a new company and clear the link with this company. We can also choose the tax rate. If your jurisdiction has different tax rates, then they can be input into the preferences dialog. The default one will be chosen whenever you create a new quote. The after tax checkbox allows you to add freight prior to calculating the tax or after calculating the tax on a quote. If you subcontract your freight to a freight company and pay per order, you may wish to add the freight after the taxed value. So here we have 21,824.48 rounded as set in the preferences to 21,824. Then the tax is calculated, then the freight is added. If we deselect that, the freight was added prior to the tax being calculated and giving you the grand total there. When the auto recalculate checkbox is selected, all calculations will be automatically updated whenever you modify any values within a quote. Whenever you wish to manually choose the final total of a quote or job, you can turn this feature off on the Costings tab. So if we turn that, for example, you may wish to increase or decrease the final total of a quote once you know the automatically calculated total. However, care must be taken when turning the automatically calculate totals checkbox off in the preferences, because the final total will not be automatically calculated even when you modify values within the quote or job. So it's best to leave this checkbox selected and only turn the auto recalculate feature off in a specific quote or job when you wish to modify the final total. For example, we have the final total here of $21,759.48. So you may wish to modify that to 1,800. You might want to make the 1,800 700. You might want to make 1,200 17,500, and the 600 rounded to 14,300. So now when we go through the different quantities, you'll see those new values are held. So now they won't be recalculated. The important thing to remember is if you now went back and changed some value within the quote or some specification within the quote, those totals wouldn't change. They only change when the auto recalculate checkbox is selected. So we'll click the auto recalculate checkbox to return those values to the original values. When the same values checkbox is selected, each quantity will have the same markup, discount and freight. So if we say put 10% markup in, when we change to the different quantities, the markup will still be 10% for each quantity because we have the same values checkbox selected. We may want the same markup across all the quantities, but we may want a different freight value across all quantities. So once we've done the markup and put that across all quantities, we can then turn the same values checkbox off and then put in a different freight value for each quantity. And now when we go back through the quantities, we'll see each quantity has a different freight. So if I click the same value checkbox, it will now put the $55 across all the quantities. So once you reselect that, it will distribute that $55 across all the quantities. Or if I chose that one and deselected the same values, it will put $25 across all the quantities. When you click the Print Details button, you get the option to print all the print item details for all the quantities of all the items. So here we have details of the quantity of 600 for each item, coupon, cover, colour insert, full colour section, 2 colour section. Then for the 1200 quantity, each of those items again. Then for the 1800 quantity, same again, and so forth. And then we do have all the finishing items and the breakdown of those for each. So there's 10 pages there of all the details of both all the print items and all the finishing items for the job, and they can be printed or saved to disk.